Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, my guest is Tsiory Kabath. She's a nutritional therapist, wife, and a mother. Tsiory and I explore a range of topics, including the regulation of blood sugar and its effects on the menstrual cycle, the dark underbelly of the white label supplement industry, and meal replacement shakes and greens powders such as Huel and AG1. We also delve into the importance of healthy stomach acid, understanding the risks of high temperature cooking, and the benefits and limitations of fasting. Additionally, we discuss minimizing your exposure to environmental toxins and making informed choices with ingredients labels. This was an extremely enjoyable and informative conversation for me. I took a lot from it and has made me rethink my own approach when it comes to nutrition, especially in the domain of supplementation. So I hope you take just as much as it from I did and enjoy my conversation with Tsiory Kabath. How did you end up becoming a nutritional therapist?
Yeah, so um, after I had my two kids, I was like, okay, it's time to, figure out what I want to do properly. I had jobs before, but they were more like jobs, and I was always interested in food. Um, and then I was thinking, do I want to go to chef school? But I realized actually, I don't really want to cook for other people like all the time. Even though that's what I end up doing now for my family. But I was like, okay, I'll study nutrition. Um, Also, at the time, I was plant based. I'd been plant based for about 6 years. So, not fully vegan, but very, plant, predominantly plant based. Um, and I knew that it was lacking in some nutrients. I wanted to know more about that, especially as I was, going to feed growing children. So, I signed up to the school, Nutritional Therapy Association. And actually, during the course of my study, kind of quit the whole plant-based diet and reintroduced more animal-based products. And then while I was studying, I had to have practice clients, and I really enjoyed that. So I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna do that for a few years, and then I'll see where that takes me. And here we are. So
Amazing.
far, I love it. I love helping people, eat better, feel better. So it's great.
Awesome. And you describe yourself as a nutritional therapist, not a nutritionist. What's the difference?
Good question. I mean, it depends on the countries, but I think in the UK, the term nutritionist is not regulated, so anyone with an interest in nutrition can call themselves a nutritionist.
Oh,
Um, but for there's also dietitian, which is I guess the more academic and medical term. But for myself as a nutritional therapist, so my official term is nutritional therapy practitioner. And what we do is we help people heal through changing lifestyle and dietary habits. So it's very bio-individual approach, meaning that like what works for you is not going to work for me, just because we're different people. And even if, someone like a relative would have a very different needs to their diet and lifestyle. Then we work on what's called the foundations of health, which are so a nutrient dense diet, digestion, blood sugar regulation, and then lifestyle habits, which are sleep, stress, movement, and environmental toxins. So through that, we believe that we can heal people. We take like a root cause approach rather than a band-aid approach. So, for instance, if someone has stomach aches, rather than giving them a tablet to get rid of that stomach ache, it's just figuring out, digging deeper, like why do you have these stomach problems, and trying to fix that so that in the long term it doesn't cause any issues.
mm. Yeah, it's yeah, it definitely resonates with me actually when you said stomach ache and tablets, and because I used
Ah,
to have you heard of omeprazole?
is that for stomach acid?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It may have a different name, or so. I had them for 10 years every
Wow.
day when I think it was when I was about 20 years old, and I started. All of a sudden, I would just struggle with um, anything acidic, including fruits. So like raw fruits and vegetables seem to trigger
Mhm.
it. And then I would also get just bad indigestion and acid reflux um, from eating bad foods, I guess, as
Yeah.
well. And I went to the doctors at the time, and they just said, "Oh, try this." I tried it, and then all of a sudden, I was then able to eat the like fruits and vegetables, but also eat whatever I wanted. And I imagine probably at the time, I can't remember, but I'm sure he must have said to me, are you drinking Diet Cokes? Are you drinking a lot of alcohol? And I mean, at like 20 years old in the UK, I
Of
was
course
kind of
not.
like, yeah, hell yeah. Uh,
That's what I
and
drink.
yeah, and yeah, and it totally changed my life at the time. Yeah, and it was amazing. And we're just, it's so common in Western countries, I imagine, where you just go, okay, here's the fix.
Yeah.
Um, and like I say, I went down that road for a long time, and it wasn't until like 3 years ago where I decided to totally change my life. At the time I was on other things like antidepressants, and I was going through a bit of a difficult time, and it was just I went through this complete just like light bulb moment, and I'm like, I need to just dial everything back and start subtracting, and that's so I stopped drinking alcohol and everything, and then I stopped eating processed foods and etc. etc. And then just to try and figure it out,
Okay.
and having things like ginger tea and just totally changing how I approached food and lifestyle and everything. And I think within like 3 or 4 months, I'd come off like all medication. And
Amazing.
yeah, sorry for the monologue there.
No, no, but that's great. I mean, like that's not everyone who can do it. I mean, and often people need to hit rock bottom to make changes. So yeah, well done for taking care of your health.
Thank you.
Um, but yeah, I mean, the example you mentioned is very common, and those pills actually they can worsen like your health over time because what they do is they neutralize the stomach acid, and what you need is strong stomach acid to break down the nutrients, and then so that your body can actually use the nutrients. So
Mm.
yeah, that's like a major issue that I deal with clients.
So on that, I've never considered this. So that medication could also likely have been stopping me from absorbing the nutrients. Is that correct? Wow.
Correct. Yes. So it's yeah, people always think, oh, I've got high acidity, but you need that acidity to
Mm,
break down like the nutrients.
yes.
So sometimes it can be the root cause of like hair loss, broken nails. People think like, oh, I can't eat meat, I can't digest meat, but it's just because the meat requires high acidity to be broken down properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We I was also vegan, by the way, for
Ah,
5 years, maybe 4 years.
okay.
Very similar like time span. I think you need to do it long enough to realize.
Yeah, right? Right. And it starts to feel great. You're like, I feel so light, I have energy. And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. I think for me as well, when I started, the girl I was with at the time, she was into it, and she was a really good cook, which helped. And she used to make all these like amazing, like whole food, like Buddha bowl type things. And I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. I think I could maybe do this.
Yeah.
And I was always interested through like a
Philosophical.
philosophical standpoint, and yeah, just totally aligned. And then I don't know, this probably maybe didn't happen for you if you're, but there was the introduction of all these like meat alternatives, like plant based things, and like we started having more of them. Oh, let's have like a burger, and oh, this is like
Mhm.
when we're being healthy, like with
Yeah.
these processed forms of food.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so excited to try Beyond Meat Burger. I was like, oh,
Mm,
this tastes better than a shitty meat burger.
yes,
Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah, and that was literally, it was like, oh, I'm eating like a burger, but I'm being healthy. That was literally what I
yeah,
thought.
yeah, no thing. But then you
Uh,
had at the same time you had all these documentaries, that were like, oh, meat is terrible for you, dairy is terrible for you.
mm,
So I mean, a lot of people fell for it, still doing it. And, some people thrive on it.
yeah.
That's the whole bio-individual approach. Some people are fine, but I do believe that for most people, it's not a long-term solution for their health.
Yeah, and that's a key point, isn't it? All these documentaries. And I find myself now, and this is why I'm having this conversation with you as well. Like, it is so hard to navigate, like, how much of it is incredibly biased. I feel like most
Mm.
of the information out there is biased. It's either leaning one way or leaning the other, because there's nothing like mega exciting about a Netflix documentary that's kind of like moderation.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's and even social media, right? I mean, all these, carnivore diets versus vegan diets. It attracts attention,
Mm.
and yeah, but I'm very much, yeah, middle of the road, like, everything, like, it depends on your situation. This could be good for person A, this could be bad for person B.
Mm.
So it's yeah, but generally like an omnivore diet that is predominantly whole food based, diversity.
Mm.
That's that would be like a healthy diet.
Yeah, and tell me about your sort of like practical approach, methodology. Walk me through the steps when someone comes to you for help with their nutrition.
Yeah, so I have a free consultation at first, just to hear about their problems, their health history, and to see what they need help with, just so that I can be sure that I can help them. Because I have referred out some clients that I thought I wouldn't be able to help, or people who are looking for help with their children, and I don't feel qualified to help with children's nutrition. And then once we've decided that yes, we're going to go ahead with this, I send them a bunch of paperwork. So there's an intake form that goes through like your health history, just like ask general questions, like your height, your weight, what kind of things you like to eat. There's something called the Nutritional Assessment Questionnaire, which is a list of 300 questions or so that asks you, about like basically symptoms. Do you ever feel bloating after food? Like, do you ever feel sleepy after eating? How's your sleep, etc. And there's a food and mood journal. So for 3 to 5 days, you just have to write down everything that you eat and drink, what movement you're doing, how you feel. Then I go through all of that, and we have an assessment, and I can tell, okay, I can see from the symptoms questionnaire, okay, well, we need to work on your digestion first, or your blood sugar regulation. Usually it's a mixture of all of these. So sleep, stress, and I make recommendations based on the person's lifestyle. So it's very personalized. Some people have more time than money, so they'll be able to spend more time in the kitchen. For some people, it's the opposite. So I will help them find like a catering service that can cook for them the right foods. And I also offer some supplement recommendations if they're willing to go through that route. So yeah, and then usually it takes at least a couple of consultations for the changes to go through, and then it will depend on the case how many consultations the person will need.
Mm. And do you do? Is it online or is it a mix?
It's mostly online. I
Mm.
have clients around the world, but for some people, I have been able to meet them face to face.
Nice. Now, that must be nice. And
Yeah.
what are the sort of typical types of clients you work with? Do you work with like any athletes, or is it more sort of, I want to say normal people, but members of the general public, just, regular non-athletic people? Is that a good term? I don't know.
Yeah, it's regular people, I like to
Regular
call them.
people.
Mostly women.
Yep.
A lot of them are mums that are feeling tired. They have energy issues. There's a lot of kind of weight loss cases, but it's more a secondary issue. Like they would like to lose a few kilos, but it's not a priority. But usually, yeah, feeling tired, having no energy, and being confused about what they need to eat. So
Right.
that's my main profile. But I've had people, different people who want to just be in optimal health because they will be trying to conceive or they have been trying to conceive. So just to get their fertility in check. And then just people who are interested in improving their health.
Mm. Talk to me a little bit about that. So, nutrition for women and how that interplays with menstrual cycle and pregnancy, and because obviously it's something I'm not familiar with. So tell me, like, yeah, how does that differ as you go throughout the months and the years and etc.
Yeah, good question. I mean, generally, your women's menstrual cycle are a reflection of their health. Okay, I mean, a lot of women don't menstruate regularly, or have just issues with fertility. Especially nowadays, there's a lot of infertility issues, and diets and lifestyle can 100% help with many of these cases. Just having a healthy lifestyle. So I think I mentioned blood sugar regulation before, and that's very intricately linked to women's menstruation. There's a lot of hormones involved in the menstrual cycle, and blood sugar regulation also involves hormones and the whole endocrine system, which is all your hormones. It's all interrelated.
So, okay, so let's just hover over that particular thing. So, regarding blood glucose levels and the menstrual cycle, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on there?
Okay, so in a healthy person, the blood glucose level should kind of stay within a certain range. So that's through diet. And if you eat a lot of sugar or processed foods, it can like spike your blood sugar. And when it spikes, your body releases a lot of insulin to then make it drop, because spikes are not healthy for the body. But sometimes the blood glucose can drop too low, and that's also stressful. So the body is trying to pump cortisol and adrenaline for your body to release more glucose into your blood. So that can be like when you feel, hungry, like for instance, you haven't eaten for a while, and then you're feeling like anxious, a bit jittery, or a bit faint,
Mm.
and then your body kicks some cortisol and adrenaline to release glucose that's stored in your liver back into the blood. And that release of cortisol and adrenaline also affects your other sex hormones.
Yeah.
So you can, if you have a lot of these spikes, it can affect your menstrual cycle. So a lot of work when it comes to like hormonal imbalance or fertility that comes down to regulating this blood sugar.
Right. Okay. So a healthy individual, let's have this example, a healthy individual who has stable blood glucose levels, what happens during the menstrual cycle to the blood glucose levels, if anything at all?
Um, I mean, it would just be like fairly regular.
Okay, right. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if you were saying that there's some interplay there in terms of at certain times of the month it might be more.
I mean, it's possible. That
Yeah.
would be very bio individual. What I'm trying to say is, healthy blood sugar will help with like the hormones.
Yes. Okay. Making sure everything's firing correctly and
Exactly. I mean, because if you have too much cortisol, adrenaline, so either from these blood sugar spikes or from stress,
mm.
that's going to impact your hormones down the line.
Yeah, because that's something I'd never really thought about is we hear a lot about blood sugar spikes, but we don't hear a lot about the opposite when it drops.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe most people would just assume that it's normal and high and normal and high and normal and high, and maybe it doesn't go that low. So that's really interesting. What you're saying is when it drops below, it kicks around all these chemicals to try and get your activation going,
Exactly.
which then yeah messes up
So like
the.
what comes up must come down, and yeah. So the idea
Mm,
of just flattening it, keeping it as steady as possible is the best.
yeah, reminds me a bit of the dopamine system with you saying that. Um, and I suppose that's probably that's going on when I haven't had a hangover for a very long time, thankfully. But that's probably what's going on with a hangover, right? You're waking up with low blood sugar and like these cravings, and like you say, maybe a little bit hungry, anxious.
I mean, alcohol definitely messes up with your blood sugar. And I mean, the hangover is also a lot to do with the liver and
Mm,
how the alcohol has been metabolized, and all the toxins from the liver that are just hanging around the body. But yeah, definitely blood sugar is also affected.
yeah, that's one thing I noticed as well when I started removing things from my diet, including alcohol, that I was astounded on how just having like a lot of carbohydrate in the evening could affect me the following day.
Okay, in what way?
I could still feel like a bit hungover.
Mm,
Now I don't know if that's normal, but like certainly I don't think I respond very well to wheat. And I think sometimes maybe, okay, this is interesting. Yeah, I thought it was maybe the carbs, but actually saying that now, I wonder if, so if I have non-alcoholic beer, actually, it
mm,
doesn't agree me well.
right.
Um,
And that's, yeah,
it's
that has
literally
wheat.
like, I suppose it's like some are better than others. I wonder if it's barley or something, but yeah, so I can still feel pretty bad the next day.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, you can definitely do some tests, write down how you feel
Mm.
and just see what the common ingredient is.
Yeah, I had it. I was convinced for ages that I had a gluten intolerance of some form. But I didn't know if it was a bit of a placebo effect. So I would notice I get a little bit of a rash around my chest as well. And it was always when I'd had a lot of wheat. And then in a strange way, I went through a period of being extremely obsessed with nutrition, very like focused, and I was training for this competition for like 6 months, and everything was dialed. But I do think like the psychological effects of being so rigid and dialed in may have other effects on the body. Like the very act of me trying to nail 9 hours of sleep on an evening, and because I'm thinking about the 9 hours of sleep, what's going on with the rest of my body? Am I in this slight state of arousal? And I wonder if that had an impact with things like the wheat, and because just recently I went through I mean, like, I'm not an athlete, by the way. This is just terms. Like, I train for this thing called High Rocks. So we say like in season, out of season. So right now I'm off season, but I'm still training like 6 days a week. I'm still eating good, but just like dialing back on the effort in a weird way has made me feel 10 times better. Maybe not 10 times better. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's something you hear sometimes, or people when they go on a holiday, they just feel better, even though they're eating like more crap food. A lot of it is mindset, like the stress. And I mean, that definitely has an impact on your body and how you feel.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about with the wheat. All of a sudden, when I relaxed about the wheat, my body seemed to respond to it better. So interesting, isn't it? That there's so many different
Yeah,
things.
the mind-body connection. I mean, maybe you healed your gut so that you were able to tolerate more wheat. It's
Yeah.
and
Oh,
like things change with the body, right? I mean, a lot of intolerances and allergies come with time. So yeah.
I know you weren't massively enthusiastic about talking about wheat, but I am interested. What is
Yeah,
your thoughts on wheat?
wheat. So modern wheat
Mm,
has been transformed a lot since its origins,
mm,
and it has a lot more gluten than it used to have, especially compared to like ancient grains, spelt, barley, all of these things. So I mean, yeah.
why? Why does it have more gluten?
I think it's just for the industrial uses. Like gluten makes it quite sticky. Also, they've changed it so that the wheat grains actually produce more, so then it has more gluten than before. I mean, I don't know the agricultural processes, but
Right.
um,
So it's likely we've got two different strains. This one is like gooey and makes things more attractive and whatever. So we're going to make more of this one and keep repeating that
exactly.
process. Yeah, because you hear about. Um, I made a note at some point to speak about blue zones, but one of those zones is it Sardinia? Somewhere in
I guess it
Italy
would be,
where
yeah.
they have these people who live past 100, and they
Yeah.
eat a lot of wheat.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess it's what you were saying. It's down to the quality.
Exactly. I mean, because there's some people who have gluten intolerance, but it's more related to wheat intolerance. But then if you have spelt or some other type of gluten, they don't react as badly, just because the gluten is different. It just contains less gluten as well. Another thing about wheat is it has a lot of glyphosate usually. So unless you use organic varieties, then you're more exposed to pesticides and herbicides.
Right.
But generally, I mean, wheat is not needed in a diet. Anyone can deal with without wheat. I mean, in Asia they don't actually consume much wheat. It's more rice based and vegetables. So, but I mean, I like wheat.
Yeah.
I love bread, pasta. So
I've come around to it a little bit more just recently, actually, and I have to admit, and I've heard this around. You'll be familiar with CrossFit, I'm sure. Yeah, so like CrossFit community is kind of linked to High Rocks. They're kind of similar, but it's all like the crazy on like pizza, bread, wheat, and of course, yeah, if you could design like a carbohydrate with the right texture to give you this amazing boost of glycogen, it tends to do that slightly better than a sweet potato for some reason.
yeah, I mean, it's if you can tell, it's just delicious. And gluten-free options are usually not as good. So
No, and I remember when I was doing my whole gluten-free thing, and I went to a family member's house, and they were like, "Oh," I was like, because I just wanted to like take round a steak or something. It's okay, I don't want pizza. I'll just bring some meat or something, and they've got me a gluten-free pizza, and I'm like, thank you,
cauliflower crust.
and it was awful. And,
Yeah,
and I was like, no, I really appreciate the effort, but you don't quite understand what I mean.
I know. Yeah, I've had like I think it was pea pasta.
Okay.
Oh, it was horrible, horrible.
Sounds nicer than mine. The thing I had, it wasn't even like replaced with something healthy. It was just full of additives and sugar. It was very strange.
Mm. Yeah, that's the thing about all these gluten-free or plant-based options. I mean, it's not necessarily better for you if it's been made in a factory with lots of additives, but it's all these health halo words that people don't have time to look at a package. Okay, gluten-free, yay!
It's
But it
such an
doesn't help
issue, isn't
you.
it? Like so many people, and only because I've just sort of educated myself over time. But so many people don't, they're not. And this is maybe why it takes me forever in the supermarket. I've been there for ages because I'm looking at everything and
Yeah,
nope, 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 and I'm trying to
yeah,
find one that just has, you know,
simple stuff.
yeah. I mean, a really good example is like cured meats, and I don't know if it's the same where you live, but if I go to the supermarket and the deli section, and you'll see like this packet of like Serrano ham or something, and it looks so like natural, and the branding, and it's from Italy or Spain, wherever it's from. I don't know. And then I look at the back, and it's just full of all these extra things. And
Mm.
usually, out of maybe 30 packets of ham, I might find one that has salt, pork leg.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. I mean, most people don't have time to look at the ingredients. So they'll make the front look nice. They'll put like a little farm, picture of a farm to make it look like, oh, this is like a happy pig, but the pig's never even seen any grass
Mm,
before. They'll put all the things you want to read about and like pick. I've seen like hummus with extra virgin olive oil. And then you read the ingredients, and it's only like a little dash, but most of it is whatever oil they use, a cheaper one, or all these cereals. A box of cereals that has whatever gluten free,
mm,
fortified. These are called a health halo. So it's terms that make people think that the product is healthier than it is.
mm.
So yeah, it's like health washing, greenwashing, but for health. And it takes a lot of education and time to learn about all of these.
On that subject of additives, are there any that are less insidious? And so, when you look at a packet of bacon or something, it has things like emulsifiers and this word I can't pronounce and this word. And
Mm-hmm.
are there any that appear on the back of packets which actually look like, if you're looking at, I don't know what that is, but actually are okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say, um, say a lot of them probably like antioxidants.
Okay.
Antioxidants, ascorbic acid. They're usually there to preserve the shelf life.
Absorbic acid.
Um, Ascorbic acid is basically it's a synthetic type of vitamin C.
Oh, right. A synthetic vitamin
And
C which allows it to have a longer shelf life. Is that correct?
yes,
Wow.
so they use it to that. They'll have it actually in cured meats.
I see it
Um,
a lot. It
yeah, or antioxidant.
so it'll have it. So there's one is antioxidant and one is absorbic acid. Is that what you're saying? Or these two together?
Ascorbic acid is used as an antioxidant.
Okay.
Now, for antioxidants, you have different types. They might have different names. I don't know enough about like which ones are safe, which ones are unsafe.
Mm,
But I think generally these are okay.
mm-hmm.
But I mean, ideally, you don't even need anything that has any ingredients, right?
Yeah.
Have whole foods, but no one has time to cook everything from scratch. So
That tends to be
yeah,
like my general filter. Is just, do I know what it is, and then.
yeah,
But I do notice that usually the stuff that I buy goes off a lot quicker,
yeah,
and
it
that's the
does.
trade-off, right?
It does. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the kitchen, but that's because that's a priority for me. Feeding my family good food.
Mm,
But I know that it's difficult. Just buying ingredients. It can be more expensive. Well, feel like it's more expensive
mm.
sometimes. Having the time to cook, and then for it to like spoil. Yeah, it's not easy.
No. So on that point, what about someone who says that they can't afford to be healthy because there's so many easier options? I can buy this meal and I can feed my family. What would you say to that type of person who is struggling to be able to buy nutritious foods and cook and etc.? Are there any sort of things that they can do to improve that?
There's always room for improvement. I mean, first of all, I would probably check with them. What are you also spending money on?
Mm,
I mean, usually where you put your time, your money, and your energy reflects what you care about. So, do you have like Netflix subscription, Spotify subscription? Do you buy lots of clothes, makeup, but then you say you can't afford healthy food?
mm,
So that requires mindsets, priorities.
mm,
And then secondly, I would say that it doesn't have to be expensive. It's whole foods. I mean, it requires planning. It is shifting. You can buy like a loaf of bread with lots of additives that will keep in your pantry for a week, whereas like fresh bread will only stay good enough for maybe 2-3 days. You can freeze things. Like there's different ways to be healthy, and then thirdly, I would say it's on a scale of like good, better, best. For instance, eating more veggies, like fresh veggies, obviously is the best. Fresh, organic, seasonal, local. That's the best. A better option is frozen veggies. And then a good enough version would be tinned veggies. So depends on the person's budget, the time allocation they can dedicate. But I would say it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can swap things or just eat more of something and less of other things. But overall, there's a saying that goes, pay your farmer now or pay farmer later. Basically invest in the food that you eat now, or you'll have to pay the pharmaceutical company later because of sickness.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, although you have the NHS in the UK, so you don't necessarily need
For
to.
now. For now, but that's a different conversation.
Exactly. But yeah, it's sort of about an investment. I mean, it's difficult sometimes for people to see themselves, ahead of time. I mean, me as well in my 20s, I wasn't living like that at all. I was just like partying, drinking, whatever, because you think you're invincible. You have a bit of a hangover, you're fine, but you can't imagine yourself like being whatever 35 or 45, aching everywhere, not having any energy. So it requires a mindset and wanting to do better.
Yeah, for sure. I think I often feel I, I often feel like I struggle financially, but this isn't for like the world's smallest violin. I invest a lot of my money in good food and health. And I often think to myself, yeah, if I just ate like a regular person, I could probably save up loads of money. I could do all these other things, but it's priorities, isn't it? Like it's such a priority to me that I go, I won't accept less. Like this is the standard.
Yeah.
And that's the bar I set for myself. I'm not going to, I'm not going to buy crap food because I'm only shortchanging myself, just like you were saying with the farmer thing.
Exactly. I mean, for me, it's the time aspect. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the kitchen, then I don't have time to watch Netflix, but that's my priority. So it's, I know that it's what's best for me, for my family. But it is difficult. I mean, you have so many more options that are cheaper, that are quicker, that are more convenient, and you have to fight against that like every day. Well, 80% of the time, I believe in the 80-20 mindset. So yeah, but no, well done for making that change. It's not easy to go against the
No,
flow.
no, especially when you live on your own as well, because no one's watching me. So yeah, keeping it up is, to be honest, it's easy for me, but I feel like I took the joy out of food. Everything is somewhat systemized because I'm so busy and I only have so much time. I'm kind of like, right, nutrient dense, and I've got these things that work, but yeah, that seems to work for me. But if I ever end up in a relationship, I might need to start broadening my recipes and
Yeah, that's fun too. That's fun too.
yeah. Can we talk a bit about fasting?
Yeah, sure.
What are your thoughts on fasting? Should everyone be doing it? Just what's your thoughts?
Fasting, should everyone be doing it? Again, no. It's by individual thing. So especially, actually, going back to a previous topic, if you're a menstruating woman, you need to watch out when you fast. Depending on your cycle, because menstruating women are meant to create life at some point, right? I mean, not everyone will, but that is kind of the concept of it. So if you're depriving your body of food, then your body doesn't feel safe, and it's going to feel like, okay, it's not the right time to carry life, and that's going to mess up with that can mess up with your menstrual cycle. So generally, you have to think about where you are in your cycle if you are going to fast.
Yeah, interesting. I never thought of it like that. That makes sense. Yeah, like there needs to be incoming food to allow the signal that it's safe to give life. Yeah. So interesting. I listened to a podcast with someone talking about they were talking about fasting and in relation to women, and I don't know why. It was really strange. For some reason, at the end of it, I shared it with two people. One of them, like a friend of mine, male friend. I don't know. I honestly don't know why I sent it him. Like it was just an impulse. I could have sent it to someone else. I could have sent it to like some of my girlfriends. I don't know why. I just sent it to him. Anyway, and I didn't know, but at the time, his wife was going through some serious issues with having to have a hysterectomy.
Okay. Well,
And was like really close to going down that route. This is what the doctors have said. You're going to have to do this. And I'd sent him this podcast that talked about fasting, and they tried doing some extended fasting. All symptoms went away. Totally sorted it out. And
amazing.
it was just like this. Yeah. And he's always like so thankful. I can't like thank you for sending that through. Like it was amazing. Like wouldn't have thought of it. And but it's just interesting how what you were saying about so the other side of it before when you were fertile or whatever. So maybe it's a slightly different
Yeah. I
approach.
mean, not sure what
What's going on
exactly the
there?
link would be, but I mean, yeah, definitely there's some benefits to fasting. Some people feel great. I would say it's can be a bit of a quick fix
Mm,
for some people. Weight loss.
yeah.
So it's like, obviously it's a good way to restrict calories. So people will just rather fast and then just continue eating whatever they eat
Mm,
during their eating windows. Again, it's very bio-individual, something that can work very well. It can work also for a certain time and then stop working. But the science does have, promising results on it. So
yeah. I feel like certainly my thoughts is like a variety of approaches and testing out different things and switching it up on occasion, but
yeah,
noticing like your own feedback and taking note and trying to like
exactly.
being somewhat intentional.
Yeah. How long do you fast for usually?
Me, I used to do it quite a lot. I mean, I'm fasted now. When I was training really hard, I wasn't, and because I just needed the calories. And then I just recently switched to. So what I used to do was, like say, like a few months ago, was I'd wake up and I'd have like 30 grams of protein, within the first 30 minutes, trying to like stabilize that blood glucose. And obviously, as well, when you're trying to build muscle, it's just okay, just get a bit more protein into to get those levels up. And then I just recently started. I went back to intermittent fasting and not eating till 12 o'clock. And generally, I feel great doing that. I prefer it. I've done I've done a few like 22-hour ish fast this week actually. mainly from a I caught a glimpse of myself on a video at the weekend, and I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of a gut there, Jason. But uh, it's hard, right? Because right now my goal is get stronger, increase my aerobic capacity. They're my two goals during off season. So, and I'm doing that. I'm performing in the gym better than I ever have. Yet, I see a little snapshot from the side, and I go, "Oh, yeah, that's the downside of having these calories." Yeah, so so this
Yeah.
week actually I've been flogging myself a little bit and going, "Oh, I'll just do full days without eating." And I don't know if it's a mental thing. I actually had a really good session in the gym on the day I was fasting. I was 22 hours into a fast. I was in there 3 hours doing strength work. That's the longest I've ever been in the gym. But I think like there's something to do with like that fuel system that I'm in because I'm not reliant on carbs. It was like a bit more
Mm,
stable. I wasn't doing anything
okay.
mega intense, like intense in terms of weight, yes, but it wasn't like high heart rate. And I did like 4 PBs, but I guess the maybe what happened after that was I was then fatigued. Like there's a bit of a delay,
Hmm.
and then yesterday, even though I ate normally all day, I didn't feel like I had as much power in when I was lifting. So I don't know if maybe, but who knows? I could just be tired.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of factors, right? Who knows? Could be the moon or
Yeah, but I think,
yeah.
but yeah, I just try and mix it up.
I think that's a good approach. I mean, generally the body gets used to to things quickly. That's like people who are on like long-term weight loss diets. After a while they plateau because your body's running on less calories, so your metabolism slows
Mm,
down. And that's why they say it's good to like switch it up, or carb cycling. And I think it's, yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I would feel it's the same with
mm.
fasting. Not just like keep it
Keep the body guessing a little bit, and
exactly.
yeah, yeah, you
Yeah,
want to
a little
be
bit of like stress.
able
Yeah,
to use that fat as fuel um, when
yeah.
called upon. Do you know I've something I'm trying to figure out at the moment. So I record podcasts on Fridays, as you know.
Hmm.
Um, I do one in the morning and then I do one at 3 p.m. But I do notice a huge difference in my sort of neural capacity and my cognitive ability.
Hmm.
So people will notice maybe
Between the morning and the afternoon.
yeah, like so morning Jason has coffee. I have to admit actually I'm a little bit tired today, but normally I'm a little bit perkier. And but then in the afternoon it's almost like yin and yang, like they're two different modes. And I've noticed like I'm like a different person in the afternoon one. I'm kind of much more like, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
definitely less
well, I'm just like this
chatty.
normal. Oh,
um,
yeah.
but that's something I'm trying to figure out actually in terms of like energy management
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
like I've experimented with not eating all day because I'm trying to keep that kind of alertness. But obviously, if you push it too hard, then you can go, was it hypoglycemic? Is that right? Where it goes under rather than the other way.
Correct.
And then I'll do like a gym session in the afternoon. And then I'm like, okay, well, I need to eat something and I'll get some. And then I'll just,
Yeah. I
any
mean,
tips?
yeah. Any tips? I mean, I guess whatever you have for lunch, like enough protein.
Mm,
Try not to spike your blood glucose too much so that you don't crash in the afternoon. Get outside at lunchtime.
mm,
I mean, getting exposure to natural light is so underrated. But fresh air, I talk a lot with my clients about, connecting with nature, and it is just, literally just being outside, taking energy from the sun, even if it's overcast or raining. Just that's quite invigorating. Go for a walk. Try that. Not just being in the gym, like under artificial light, but like just being outside.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, thankfully it does have some natural light going into it, but yeah, I could definitely get a little bit more daylight. Not that there's much, very overcast here today. I don't know what it's like where you are.
It's okay, but I mean, even if it's overcast or raining, I mean, just getting outside, getting the full spectrum of sunlight is important. Like it sends signals to your body, what time of day it is. And, nowadays we just tend to be in front of our laptops or screens inside. Blue light, we know how blue light can affect your body. So just getting away from that regularly can have an effect.
Yeah. Do you follow Huberman?
Not religiously, but I do listen now and then.
Like he's like the sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning, all this. Somewhat it's become a bit of a meme. Like this morning I tend to do 10 minutes outside, and it's been really nice because the weather's been nice here for a few weeks. Then this morning I'm like literally like this, like looking up at the sky, like trying to get all this like the low cloud light to just come in, because if you do kind of look, it you can feel it affecting you, can't you? You just look like a crazy person staring up at the sky.
I think that's great. I mean, definitely, morning light, and just, I tell my clients, like, take outside breaks, especially if they're working in an office. It's easy to just like get in the office, then you're in front of your screen the whole day, get out, and you just get like a little bit of sunlight. But it just, I think we don't realize, but it sends information to your body. About what time of day it is, how it should react. I mean, it's the same thing, blue light at night, how it affects your sleep and all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier I was talking about fasting and eating when I first woke up. I don't know if you're familiar with The 4-Hour Body. It's a book by Tim Ferriss, and he sort of popularized this 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say that it's probably a bit too much of a generalized advice. I would say within 1 hour of waking up and at least 25 grams. So, I weigh like 53 kilos, so 25 grams is good enough for me. And most of my female clients as well, like 30 grams is more on the higher end. And then within 1 hour, just because, if you have kids or I mean, I struggle to eat like straight away when I wake up. So I think, I mean, it's a good generalized advice, but it is a healthy thing to kickstart your metabolism, and the protein, rather than carbohydrates, will help with those blood sugar levels. And then I think it's been proven that the more protein you eat in the morning, the less calories you're likely to eat throughout the day. So, for all these weight loss or calorie control. So
because it's satiating, right? The protein is satiating.
Exactly. Yeah. So but definitely, I mean, protein breakfast is important, forget all these pancakes and cereals and
it's almost like what people commonly think is exactly the opposite. I need carbohydrates, I need energy to start my day, and I don't want to eat carbs in the evening because it'll sit on my hips. But
that's true.
For me, it tends to work best the opposite way around. I have the carbohydrates in the evening because it gives you that kind of like sleepiness. Is it the what's the chemical in carbs? Tryptophan, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's as you said, it can be the opposite of what people think or what people have been taught. But again, I think, with breakfast, especially if you have kids, like cereal's a lot more convenient than cooking eggs. But it's going against that convenience attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. So on convenience, talk to me about meal replacement shakes such as something like Huel. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. So I think they can be helpful again for convenience. I mean, I had a quick look, and I think the ingredients are okay for meal replacements on Huel products.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that I would eat regularly, but it can be convenient rather than buying some, I don't know, crappy meal deal on the
Yeah,
go, which is also fine, now and
sure.
then for convenience. Um, I mean, generally, it's more about your overall diet, like throughout the week, rather than like one specific meal at a time. So if you have it once, twice, maybe 3 times a week, but the rest of your diet is, whole foods and diverse and balanced, then I have no issues with that. But if you're going to have it as your lunch every day, you should probably reevaluate your choices.
Yeah, I I must admit I'm actually really grateful for that product. I don't have a lot of it now, but it kind of helped me, and I think this is the best use case when I was struggling with my health and my weight. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Around like 3, 4 years ago, and I was vegan at the time. So actually, if you're vegan, it's a really good source of protein,
Yeah.
and so that's definitely where it comes in. And I think at the time, I think I started intermittent fasting, and then I started having that for my lunch, and it just really helped like kickstart that weight loss. And I think it was
Yeah.
kind of like and I'm not saying this is what anyone else should do, but that seemed to work for me. And
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like so much of this stuff is around like how we attach our identity to it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
me having this Huel thing is like, oh, I'm a healthy person. Like, I'm going to do healthy things. I'm going to go out for a walk. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start doing yoga. Um, and obviously, sometimes that can be misaligned, but yeah, I do think it can be important to sort of kickstart, right?
For sure, for sure. I mean, yeah, we all start our health journey in different ways. I mean, we were both, yeah, vegan, plant
Mm,
based. Uh, it helped for a while, didn't. I mean, Huel helped you, but it's not something that you've continued like
yeah.
taking on a regular basis. So yeah, there's definitely a space for these types of
Mm,
meals, meal replacement products. It's just how you use it and how often you use it. I think that's important to think about.
yeah. I remember like when I first started having it, I was running a nightclub music venue, and I used to work really late, and I literally would sort of not necessarily split test, but I would just notice different approaches. So if I was doing like DJing or something in the evening, I would just try. I'm just going to take one of those and have that like on the go. And whenever I did that, I felt really good the next day. Whenever I had a pizza on the way home instead, I felt horrendous. And
Yeah.
that's where maybe I started getting this thing where I'm like, oh, what's going on with the wheat or whatever. But again, it's
Mhm.
listening to your own body and noticing
Exactly.
how it affects you.
Yeah, exactly. And in that case, I mean, the meal replacement is definitely better than having the pizza.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. I can't see any bad evidence for that particular product other than like my own kind of like, oh, should I be having this? But in terms of actually my experience, it has been positive.
yeah, there's space for it, but it remains a highly
Yes.
processed food. So yes, it does have, with protein, does have like, added micronutrients,
Mm,
but your body's not going to react with it the same as if you're having, like fish with
hmm.
vegetables, which is always the better option. But it's not
Yeah.
bad.
And also, but
Yeah.
we want to be chewing as well for teeth and jaw health,
Yes.
right? So this is one
Yeah.
thing that
Yeah.
liquid food, you're not actually chewing anything, and that has other issues, doesn't it? What
Exactly.
about greens powders?
Greens powders. Yeah, I think again it can be useful, especially for people who don't consume many vegetables. But again, it's just like a supplement, right?
Mm,
So you're not going to be able to live on it. I mean, AG1, for instance, has amazing marketing. They're on all the big podcasts, and so and it's expensive. Probably need to pay all those
yes,
marketing fees.
like £100, $100, something.
So, yeah, I mean, per serving, it's quite a lot. But as a product, it's not bad. But I wouldn't say you need it. It's a good extra to have if you have the means.
Mm. Yeah, because
It's just
there's
not.
been a little bit of a pushback just recently online because I do follow like a lot of these podcasters and people who promote it, and then there's been a bit of a thing recently. Like it's a scam, it's a pyramid scheme. The podcasters are getting so apparently some of them get up to like 50% commission on repeating. So,
I'm sure.
yeah, like you say, great marketing. But I guess what you're saying is, once again, the answer's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very much like that. I mean, it's fine to have, but if you have the money for it, but you're not going to die without it.
Mm,
And it might have more of a placebo effect. Like, oh yes, I'm drinking
yeah,
AG1. I have the branded
yeah.
bottle and green. It's healthy,
What do you think
but
about like the amount of ingredients and the absorption and like because one of the arguments is I think they have like 90 ingredients in it or something, but of course it's this little scoop.
mhm.
One of the arguments is that it just there's no way it would be able to have an effect. I don't know if you.
Mm. Um, I don't know enough about that. I mean, I'm sure it will have some
Mm,
effect, but I mean, but then you could always say the same about any supplement, right? I
mm,
mean, it's more like over time that you see the effects, or I mean, well, a lot of supplements, it's not going to
yeah.
help. Um, in the best case, worst case, like you feel worse, but yeah, I mean, the actual
Mm.
absorption of them, I don't know enough.
Supplementation. What's your sort of general approach?
General approach is I use it more on a therapeutic basis, so it will be for 3 to 6 months. But then there isn't anything I recommend like long term. Again, it's very bio individual.
So you would
Um,
always be cycling off any supplements. Is that what you're saying?
um, yeah, yeah, but it also depends on the situation. So I'm not going to recommend like omega 3s to everybody like for forever. But yes, definitely would cycle things off. I do take a food first approach. So yeah, for instance, rather than taking omega 3s, then prefer to eat more sardines, salmon, just food sources of these
Hmm.
nutrients. But also the problem with supplementation is the quality. There is just so much out there. I mean, you go to a Boots or Superdrug, you want magnesium, if you don't know anything, I mean, it's so confusing, you know, what's dose you take, you know, what form do you take. It's a minefield. There's like a lot of money. It's not regulated. And again, what works for someone is going to not work for someone else, so it might actually damage them. Also, the thing about food first approach is that you don't have any food that's isolated in just one micronutrient. You know, so for instance, collagen versus bone broth. So I used to take collagen supplements, but now I just do my own bone broth because it has a lot of collagen, but also has all these minerals, which are going to work with each other and make them more bioavailable. Whereas collagen on its own, yeah, I mean, can help, but it's also more expensive. And that's the same with other vitamins and minerals. If you just take too much of something, it can create an imbalance in your body. So that's why I usually don't recommend anything long-term without testing or without knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I have to admit I do take a lot of supplements. It's probably the one thing I'm like, eh. But I do get blood work done, so I'm able to track some of those things. So
okay, and you take them just in case, or
I think I've just happened over time, and perhaps this is one of the dangers. You know, it starts with a multivitamin, then it's omega-3, and I'm on the vitamin D. I think I probably take less than I used to. And then, yeah, my sleep one is probably the biggest, actually. But for that, just to sleep better. And I have noticed a difference. So I'll, you know, take one thing, see how that affects. Seems to help. Okay. And then and then I'll be like, oh, I'll hear about another thing. So like, okay, let's try this. So yeah, so I've never slept better, really. So that's good. But yeah, I do think sometimes I need to get better at cycling off, which I've been doing a little bit more frequently and just switching it up. Like for instance, like CBD, I cycled off that recently, and I did notice the first few days was okay, and then I just noticed like I felt like my sleep quality was just going down a little bit, which potentially tracks with how people talk about CBD and the way that it kind of like you get like this long term sort of like once you've topped up your system. I don't know if you know anything about CBD, but feel free to jump in on that one.
I don't, unfortunately.
But I think that's like one that does seem to work. But yeah, I think I need to be much more intentional, a little bit more intentional around supplementation. And yeah, okay, I'm going to stop taking this one. I'm going to stop taking this one. So yeah, so this conversation is a reminder for me to.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's a big industry. Like quality is a big thing, but even I don't know a lot about that. There's a lot of marketing, a lot of new products being hyped up. Actually, last week or 2 weeks ago, I was at this big nutraceutical event. So basically, all these dietary supplements, all the suppliers, all the makers, and it was fascinating to see what a huge industry it is, and just a lot of white label and private label firms, which shows you like a lot of it is marketing, right? So you and I could just start our own brands, and everything is just out there for you. You just need to market it to the public.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So they've
and then they have all the studies to they have a lot of the work done for you. It's like, okay, well, this, and then you can show this study, the study, the study. This is like the marketing terms that are being used these days. Like people, are very into mental health and cognitive health. It was fascinating, as someone on the consumer side, just like seeing behind the scene industry was interesting.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? How something like that is like tapping into that want to be healthy and do the right thing, but it's like the dose makes the poison. It's like if you go too hard on it, it will go the opposite way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And harm you. So yeah, this has definitely been a little bit of a wake up for me. Actually, I need to check out my because I think sometimes as well though it's like a bit of a not a badge of honor, but like we have this group in the gym, and it's like. Ask Jason, like I can't sleep or I can't this. I'm like, right, you want to do this, and then I'm like, okay, I've got this one and this one, and probably I probably quite enjoy that little bit of like status around like being the guy that knows a bit about supplements. So yeah, I'm always like looking at these little threads. I'm in therapy at the moment, so I'm like trying to look at okay, why is that like
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's again, it can become one of these quick
mm,
fixes, Like, okay, I can't sleep. Okay, well, magnesium is great, or try like tart cherry juice
mm,
or whatever it is these days. But actually, are you really going down to the root cause? Like, why can't you sleep? Is it your environment? Is it stress? You can't rely. Ideally, you shouldn't rely on these supplements
yeah.
in the long run. So
Yeah, I think well, it comes down to its environment, isn't it? And I certainly have a lot less
yeah,
stress in my environment now than I used to, and I'm much better at regulating that. But yeah, I think there is somewhat of a band-aid approach there. Like it reminds me. Have you ever listened to Dr. Rangan Chatterjee? I think he's called.
maybe one or two
Same.
podcasts. Yes.
I've one or two. Um, he's good. But yeah, not one that I listen to a lot. And he had oh, what's his name? Sadhguru. You come across this guy? He's
I haven't, no.
like a Indian spiritual guru type guy. He's done lots of books
Okay.
and he's like got
Okay,
the
I see.
beard and the typical yeah. And it was a really interesting conversation, and he was like, he basically was like saying like the body only needs his body only needs like 3 hours of sleep, but it was, and that sounds obviously to us just kind of like whoa, but he was like, how can I explain it? He was just like, it was almost like because yes, you might if you're doing all these things and you're working really hard and you know, yeah, you probably do need 8 hours, but he was just like in this like blissful state, and he's like he was like so chill, and he's like I have no stress, and I'll have to link it
Mhm.
up and send you it maybe, but he was like the body doesn't, and he's talking to this guy who's a GP, and he's like you don't need 8 hours, it's the stress, it's the environment.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's just kind of generalizing his
Yeah,
own
it's very
experience.
extreme, but what it makes me think about is it's like so many of these things like the supplementation is like a band-aid for a
Mhm.
lifestyle that is high stress and all the rest of it. I don't envisage myself ever going down to three hours of sleep a night.
What would you do for
Yeah,
the rest of the day?
exactly. Just
That'd be
meditate and be at peace, I guess. But yeah, I suppose what we're all trying to do is navigate this world of all this stuff going on and try not try not to
yeah. I
die.
mean, but again, there's a time and a place for
Mm,
supplementation, and I did have a phase as well where I would like was trying these different things and taking them all, and then when we moved to Switzerland, I wasn't sure where to buy them from, and I just didn't get anything. And then I was like, oh, okay, sure, I feel fine. I feel fine. I have a varied diet, but it doesn't mean that I'm never going to take supplements again.
Okay. Toxins.
It's-
Which are the main things that we should be looking out for? There are so many, whether it's plastics, phthalates, BPAs, air fryers, non-stick pans. Yeah, what's your thoughts on?
It's definitely something that people should be more concerned about. Which are the ones that are most toxic? I don't know. I think it just depends what you're more exposed to, depending on your lifestyle. Microplastics is the big one. There was a study that came out this week. They examined these preserved testicles, and all of them contained microplastics.
Wow.
You know, microplastics has been found in placenta, so it's everywhere, and it's scary because it's difficult to get rid of. That's in the body, but also in the environment. What else? Yeah, PFAS. That's now it's clear that it's very dangerous for your health.
Sorry, say that again. PFAS. Did you?
PFAS.
Okay, PFAS. Okay, yeah.
PFAS. I call them PFAS, but maybe, yeah, you're right. You know, all the non-stick items.
Oh, like that's the coating, is it? Right. Okay.
Exactly.
I was just thinking of I think most people would know it as just like Tefal. Like that's the brand. That's the brand, obviously.
Okay, yeah, Tefal or Teflon.
Okay.
Exactly. But anything that makes it non-stick. So even in like waterproof makeup, that can have the toxic ingredients, or like outdoor gear, that makes it waterproof. That can also have that toxic chemical. So yeah, what are the priorities? I mean, again, I think it depends on what you're exposed to. So if you live in a polluted city, then having an air filter can help a lot. Having a water filter is also very helpful. Otherwise, like swapping ingredients, swapping products, like beauty products, to things that are like less toxic. And then for plastics, like in the kitchen, like swapping your chopping boards, because every time you chop on the board, you're like exposed to plastic.
Well, yeah, you can see like the ingrains, like if
exactly, yeah.
You know that it's getting in.
It gets in your food. Avoid putting anything hot in plastic containers, because that can leach. And this whole thing about tea bags that can contain, especially those fancy ones, there's like plasticky fancy tea bags that contain microplastic, and when you put it in hot water, then it leaches.
Oh wow, yeah, I never even thought of those ones. Yeah, they're like a silky kind of look. They look like a luxurious.
Exactly. Yeah. Like a pyramid shape, or that just look more sturdy than.
What about tea bags in general? So just like the generic tea bags that we would have, like, because if they must have some plastic in them, anyways. For sure, they would. They would have to. Well. They would break down, wouldn't they?
Paper would just dissolve, right? And then, like, what do they use to seal the actual tea bag? I guess glue. Man. Loose. Like, if you consume a lot of tea, loose tea is the best way.
Wow. Yeah. See, because I think I'm like all over this, and then you've just given me somewhere I've not thought of. I'm like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but there's like so much. I mean, in general, just again, it's a convenience trap, right? I mean, just putting a tea bag is so much easier than like, okay, getting your loose leaf, like putting it in some kind of like seed to put in your tea. But it's just like rethinking habits little by little. You don't need to like get rid of all your plastic containers at a time. Just little by little, or if you have a plastic container but you need to reheat your lunch, then put it in your plate, and then put that plate in the microwave. So
Yeah, and you can buy like
little
glass
habits.
things to reheat, which I've got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have glass ones. There's also like stainless steel. I mean, I'm not sure you can reheat that in the microwave, but
Yeah.
just as a container. So yeah, glass, and then you're also putting less microplastics into the environment. Also clothing. I think a lot of the microplastic that has been found in those testicles come from like polyester clothing, because also every time you wash it, there's some microplastic that gets into the water. And fish are full of microplastics nowadays. I mean, it can be scary if you think about
Yeah.
it too much.
Yeah.
So it's just about trying to minimize and not stress about it too much.
Yeah, the polyester one is one that I keep hearing, and then I'm like, but obviously, I spend a lot of time in the gym and sweating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think about it actually.
Well, I mean, again, there's a time and a place for polyester. You know, if it's functional for functional use, it's okay. But now you go to like a fast fashion shop and they'll just have polyester in everything, like a t-shirt or trousers when they don't need to be. It's just that it's
It's
cheaper.
cheaper and it makes them more durable because they're less likely to shrink.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I've noticed
Sometimes.
anyway, is if it's yeah. Um, I've got these.
But yeah.
I've got these. I've got some underwear that I really like, and I've got loads of them, and I think it's got like a little bit of polyester in, and it makes them more wicking. It makes like they're really, like I say, durable. They don't shrink or anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably like the one place where I don't want to be having plastic.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know how much of it gets absorbed through the skin, or if most of the microplastic. I mean, I'm sure some of it does.
Mm.
There's a lot of it that goes in through the food and the water that we consume,
So okay,
which is
so
probably
how's that working in terms of? Are you meaning because there's so much of it just in the system, right? Okay, rather than it's not me washing my
yeah.
clothes and then it's then going into my.
So I'm sure that there might be
Mm,
some that gets into your system from like sweating
yeah,
in like some polyester clothing. But I think, and I'm not sure about that, but I think most of it comes from like plastic bags dissolving in seawater, and then the seawater turning into like drinking water, or from the fish
right.
that we consume.
Yeah, they say the same with like
I
some
think,
medications and stuff, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're filtering your water which is something I don't do yet, but it is something that can be very helpful
Mm.
for your health and getting rid of
So
toxin exposure.
I bought a filter um in Black Friday deal. And it was quite
Ooh,
cheap. It was one I've been looking at anyways. And well, I might as well say they're called Water 2, number 2. It's a British company.
okay.
And seem to be really good. And there's this video, and you just put it under your sink and it's dead easy. No, not if you live in an old house like
Yeah.
me, and like this, like the taps all kind of like confined, and so I've not been able to do it yet. But like every day, I'm kind of like, put the tap on. I should really put that filter thing on. But and I mean, like,
Setup is done. It's
yeah, and
just
yeah, look out for the Black Friday deals for anything like that. I've started having like a list now, like being like, if there's anything I want to buy, add it to the list, and then can I wait until Black Friday because it'll probably be half the price. And I think this was like
yeah.
£50, and it's supposed to last for the year, so that's a good investment.
Okay.
If
Right.
yeah,
If you
if you
manage to
manage to
use
use
it.
it, but it's like, yeah, if you think of we're talking about all these different things, and what's the one thing that we consume the most of is water. So it's probably the one thing that we should prioritize.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're lucky to live in countries where water is safe enough to drink, but I guess it's just, again, that good, better, best. If you really want to have optimal drinking water, then you should probably think about like filtering it. All these chemicals, like the medication, as we said, heavy metals.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I just want to talk for a minute specifically about air fryers. Now, I got myself an air fryer after doing a lot of research, and I found that if you get the ones that have the ceramic coating, it protects you against stuff coming off because it's ceramic. But I saw something the other day, and I can't remember what it was, and it was like 2 reasons you shouldn't be having an air fryer. Number one is the non-stick thing, which I knew about, and the other one was something to do with the way that it's cooked does something to the food, which is problematic, or what's the term, that carcinogenic. But I didn't know if that was just a generalized thing about, like, if you were frying something and you were like browning the meat or whatever. I don't know if it's just referring to that. I didn't know if you had any more insights around what that could be.
Not sure. I mean, I don't own an air fryer, but so it's basically, from what I understand, it's kind of like an oven, but that uses less oil to kind of fry the food,
just,
right? Is that it?
I guess it's like a small surface area. It's extremely hot. So for me, I'll tell you, actually, I might as well tell you. I know we didn't want to talk about fats because you said you didn't have much. Yeah, it's a difficult area,
That's
fats.
right.
But I was cooking steak with good quality olive oil, and I started thinking. I heard somewhere about trans fats, olive oil, if it's too hot, could potentially be problematic because, of course, the Mediterranean approach to olive oil would be more like low and slow. It's not like frying something really hot like a steak. So it kind of got me down this route of, okay, well, I don't know if I want to be doing that anymore, which then led me to, okay, what about an air fryer? So I can put the meat in without the oil at a high temperature, give it that sort of like grilled type feel, and then I'll drizzle the olive oil on top of it with some butter, so like I'm not messing with the oil. So that's kind of, I can't remember what we were talking about there. I know we were talking about air fryers, but I can't remember when I mentioned that.
I mean, generally, quite generalized, but anything that's cooked at a high temperature tends to be more problematic than something at a lower temperature. For the olive oil or any fat and oil in general, they have what's called a smoke point. And that's when that fat turns into smoke, then that is carcinogenic.
Because the molecules have changed and it's broken down.
Exactly, it's just too hot and it's changing them into something that causes damage to the body. So I'm guessing that that would be the issue with the air fryer. But if there's an option to fry at a low temperature, maybe that would solve the problem.
But if I was cooking it without the oil,
cooking without the oil. I mean, yeah, but you can also, when you like barbecue meat, if it's too, that's also carcinogenic, right? Anything that's like charred.
But as long as it's not burnt.
So if it's not burnt, I think it's should be fine.
Interesting. Yeah, it's obviously an area that is difficult to sort of nail an exact approach.
Yeah, I think it depends like what temperature it would come up to. But if it's not burnt, I don't see a problem.
That's the answer I wanted.
You're
But
fine.
yeah,
Keep on doing what you're doing.
if anyone's listening and has more insights around that particular thing, let me know. Okay, we'll start to bring this one home. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Before we wrap up, do you want to? What are the sort of take homes? If you could, I tell you what, if you could send a text message out to, I won't say the world, if you could send a text message to all the Westerners, what would it say? What would you like people to remember?
Regarding
Nutrition,
like
yeah.
nutritional therapy or um I would say generally I'd say yeah, spend more time in the kitchen. Like cooking whole foods, spend more time outside, stay away from your screens. Yeah, just learn to read ingredients, to pick up that package of processed food and read what's at the back. A lot of companies just are just there to make money and they don't really care about your health. So yeah, that would be like the minimum to do. Take it one step at a time. Don't try and get overwhelmed with eating healthy, working out, reducing stress, and doing everything. That's too much. So it's just consistency over intensity. Just do it like little bits. Start drinking more water. Once you've got that down, then have eggs for breakfast. Once you've got that down, then add more veggies to your diet. It's like little by little. Only a few people manage to just turn everything around one day to the next.
Here. It's that stacking of over time of just introducing new things,
Yeah.
and then you end up with a supplement cupboard as big as mine at the end of it.
Yeah, but then, in a year's time, let's see where you end up.
Yeah, we will see. Tsiory, thank you so much. Where should people go if they want to check out your stuff? This is your chance to plug your work, Instagram, website, all that stuff.
Yeah, great. So I am on Instagram, so it's Tsiory Nutrition, and that's also my website, tsiorynutrition.com.
Amazing.
Check me on there. But thank you, Jason.
Excellent.
I really enjoyed this.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in the future.